Ahead now. Last week, President Donald Trump suggested that the United States presidential election slated for November be postponed, saying increased postal voting could lead to fraud and inaccurate results.
He says the election should be held off until people could properly, securely, and safely vote. Mr. Trump is against the mail-in voting system, which U.S. states want made easier due to public health concerns over the coronavirus pandemic.
Under the U.S. Constitution, Mr. Trump does not have the authority to postpone the election himself, and any delay would have to be approved by Congress. Joining us for this discussion is Dikbo Oyewole, strategy consultant and public affairs analyst. Dikbo, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Now, the point there is, America is the leader of the world, but for any reason, the leader of the world makes a suggestion of the postponement of election and reminds you of what happens either in Burundi under late President Pierre Nkurunziza or maybe in Angola under President Museveni, where somehow elections are, shifted and shifted for different reasons. How does this come to you?
Okay, well, for me, it's a bit humorous, and that's why I've been smiling when you started stating the the African examples, because yes, this is a nation that has always touted its dominance in terms of the examples they show in terms of democracy. But that being said, of course, like you rightly said, that constitutionally he doesn't have the right to say he wants to postpone an election. But the fact that it's even coming up as a conversation, even within the United States, tells you a lot, because of course, they understand the kind of personality they have in the Oval Office, so it is something that is worth talking about. But yes, like you also rightly said, that you also need the approval of Congress for the election to be postponed. But also in the history of the country, general elections haven't been postponed before. So the question is, where do they get the precedence from? So it is going to be a bit tricky. But either way he sees it, either they postpone the elections, which is not very likely, or when the elections do come out, when the results do come out, and then it's not in his favor, which is what's really led to this entire conversation about postponement, okay? He's been asked time and time again that would he accept any adverse results that didn't favor him in November, and he hasn't been able to respond.
So you think this is a sign of a desperate move that might come up later on with regards to the election?
Yes, because historically, and as anyone within the United States will tell you, is as an incumbent president, you're not running against the other person, you're running against the economy. Now, so far he's had it very good. The coronavirus hit, he still had a few wins, but up until a few days ago, the economy went the other way that he didn't want, okay? So people are saying that, okay, so now it's obvious that he may get to lose the election as opposed to a few months ago when we're saying that he was likely to win. Because now all the economic wins and gains that he may have thought he had, they're sort of going down the drain. So people are saying that this could be a stunt that he's pulling, but it's an interesting thing that we'd like to see.
But
how
you could
it tends to
take
play
lessons
out.
from Abraham Lincoln during the First World War, who a lot of persons felt that he might lose the election at the time, but he eventually won.
Or maybe on the other hand, he wants to be an underdog in this situation because he has raised alarm of possible fraud in the election and all of that. An incumbent president.
I don't believe that, because yes, like we've said, he's an incumbent president. Okay, you have the state's machinery at your disposal,
Absolutely.
so you cannot claim to be the underdog. How does that work? How does that work exactly? And also note that when he was going to come in for his first term, he had the same conversation around absentee voting, mail-in voting, the fraud. But he was still elected president. You were complaining about maybe foreign interference, which you still got into office, and then the opposition said, okay, you know what, taking a leaf from your page, there was a lot of foreign interference and all of that. And then he said, okay, no, it's not happening. So is it when it gets to favor you that you don't complain about it? Because he didn't get into office with mail-in votings only, and then get there and say that, okay, you know what, I think in the next 4 years we need to deal with it. No, you're not saying that. Now there are a few months to November. You're not saying how do we firm up ensuring that it is free
just being
and fair.
creative with the realities of what COVID-19 has brought.
But all we're saying is an alarmist who is saying that, okay, you know what, so in case I say in November that I will not accept that, I won't be accepting this result. Remember that I said a few months ago that it would be riddled by fraud and also, yes.
So this
But
is the fraud.
What,
So
what,
here
what
is the fraud.
happens? What happens if Congress finally agrees?
I don't believe
Perhaps.
I don't believe they will agree, because even members of his party, the Republican Party, they're even saying that he should forget about it, that the elections will not be postponed, and either he likes it or not, his tenure ends January 2020, because so the elections will not be postponed because by him anyway, and it hasn't been done in general elections, like I said. So that'll be putting them in a huge constitutional precedence that they do not want to be in. So that being said, if the results come out and it's not in his favor, and then he rejects it, the question should be then what happens? Because
What happens? Yeah.
ideally he should be out of office January 20th, 2021. If he says that he doesn't accept the result, then what happens? Is it that on January 20th he says the inauguration would not hold of the president-elect? Will he say that he's not leaving
But
the
what
White
likely
House?
scenarios do you see playing out if he rejects the results?
It's very tricky, and it is it's a bit of a frightening place to be, okay? Saying that he rejects the results and saying that he doesn't accept, he doesn't have full confidence in the system of democracy. So for me, I would expect that there be a lot of external factors come into play. This is what I mean, that members of Congress, including members of his party, okay, come out and say that he has to accept the results. Because if you also go back to the administrations or the regimes that you quoted, in cases where incumbent presidents have rejected election results is where they also had their own party defend them. In this case, if his own party alienates him and then they say that, you know what, you're on your own, and then there's a bipartisan conversation around it from both sides of the aisle saying that, no, we accept this result, you have to accept it. He has no choice but to leave office.
On the other hand, if he is not satisfied, just like we do here in Nigeria,
Yeah.
the courts are there. You go to court.
Yes, the courts are
and
there,
then
but you have to leave the White House first.
However way, go to court,
Absolutely,
and then with all the evidence that you have
Yes.
that this election was marred with fraud, put them in the court.
And drag it out
It's
there.
a good thing America has one of the strongest judiciary system
Yes.
in the world. So they'll take a look at it and all of that. But the point there is, on the other hand, some analysts are saying that he wants to pull a media stunt where you keep talking about he's the most popular person in the media. Because the point there is, in the last election, he got mentioned even more than the times that Hillary Clinton was doing adverts for presidency.
Yes, so you should also understand that as an entrepreneur, he built his entire brand around being very visible. So yes, this could also serve as a two-edged sword for him. Like I said earlier, I could just be saying that, okay, in November, if I said if I'm not accepting the results and all of that, and also causing a media storm where he is always the controversial person in the news. So it is his brand, and it has served him well so far. So the question is it going to serve him well in November with this conversation?
Now, as much as a delay could challenge the legitimacy of the elections, as it is rightly pointed out, there are concerns that issues of election fraud are things that should really be looked into because the people have to be confident in the result of any election.
Yes.
How much of a challenge could this be for a democracy like the U.S.?
Well, this will be a huge challenge because part of the hallmarks of the brand they've been able to sell to the whole world is that they are the greatest democracy in the world. They have the fairest democracy in the world. They have the strongest judiciary system in the world. Now, interestingly, all that is being put to the test at this time, and it will be a thing to watch in November with what the president has said. I mean, Donald Trump saying that that he suspects that there will be a lot of fraud with the mail-in votes or the absentee votes, because really it is the same thing. So the question is, what is being done at this time to ensure that the possibility of fraud or malfeasance is being dealt with? We're not hearing a lot of that right now being spoken about. You're just saying that, okay, there's a challenge, but you're the president of a nation. You should also have people who are interested in the solution. So we would expect to see in the next couple of days and a couple of weeks that certain measures are being put in place to ensure that it is secure and that it is foolproof to a certain extent to ensure that there isn't voter fraud. But of course, it is a legitimate concern, but I don't expect the president to be in the category of people that would be complaining about something. You should have the solutions, you have the resources of the federal government at your disposal. So you should do something about it and not come to the media to complain.
But, well, the point there is when the President of the United States drops a hint on anything, you might not necessarily see it as law, but it's weighty, really very weighty. Well, would you see the likelihood or possibility of that being in the discussion as to whether the Congress can debate that or look at the possibility of shifting the election, quoting a natural disaster like coronavirus or the impact of coronavirus?
Well, I don't see it happening because realistically, one, we know that in Congress, so they have the House of Representatives, they have the Senate. Now, the Democrats are in charge of the House of Representatives, the Republicans are in charge of the Senate. It will require both houses to pass, okay? Already the Democrats have said it is not going to happen, okay? Even the Republicans are kicking against it that this is not going to happen because, like you rightly said, it's never happened before in the country's history where a general election would be postponed or be moved for any reason. Of course, it's also fair to say that coronavirus hasn't happened before, or a virus or a pandemic of this scale hasn't happened before in modern times. So let me say modern times. All right. So yes, I don't believe they will want to do that because it will be setting a negative precedence, like I said, for the nation. So I don't see it happening. It's just, for me, it is rhetoric on his part. Like I said earlier, if you believe that there's a challenge, you should have people in place to say that, yes, this is what I feel should happen, is likely to happen. Give me possible solutions because the people of this country need to have their votes secured.
All right. Now, the world is actually looking to America to take the lead, when it comes to issues of democracy. And we see the role they have played with Hong Kong and other countries.
Yes.
And with statements like this, do you think that they might begin to rethink the person of President Trump? Because another opportunity, some have said, this could be an opportunity for persons to begin to look in the direction of Joe Biden and the likes.
Yes, of course. So every other day, people are looking for an excuse to not vote in Trump or to vote for Trump, depending on which side of the divide you stay on. But yes, being a controversial figure as he's always been, not just being as a president, but as a businessman. I mean, Trump now. Yes, so a lot of people aren't really surprised. A lot of people believe that he's just blowing off some smoke to maybe cause a diversion or to be in the news for some reason. But yes, this also is a reason for some people who have erstwhile been undecided as to who they may be voting for to say that, okay, you know what, if we have a president, a commander-in-chief who is talking like this, you have the full resources of the federal government at your disposal and you're not doing anything about such an issue, but you're coming out to complain about it, maybe we need somebody else in office. But it is hard to say because he has a very strong political base. Either way you like to shake it, okay? That fact is there and it is very real. He has a strong political base and he has people who are true believers no matter what he says or does. So that reality is there.
All right.
All right. We'll leave the conversation here now. Dikbo Oyewole, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
me.
much. Thank you.